24 days to the midterm elections, Republicans are feeling the pressure of surging Democratic fundraising efforts. A Republican activist telling Politico, "We've never seen anything like this. Since the end of July, Republican candidates in the 70 most competitive races have reserved $60 million in TV ads. Well, that's compared to $109 million by Democrats, this according to figures reviewed by Politico. Meanwhile, the fundraising record for Senate races has just been shattered as Beto O'Rourke, the Democratic candidate looking to unseat Ted Cruz in Texas, raised over $38 million just in the third quarter alone. For context, that's more than what presidential candidates Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders raised in the third quarter of 2015, and more than Jeb Bush raised during his entire 2016 campaign for the Oval Office. For more on this, let's bring in Republican strategist Evan Siegfried and also Democratic strategist and senior advisor for Swing Left, Emily Tish Sussman. All right, Evan, I want to gauge your level of worry here when it comes to that and the Republicans here, because you've got the New York Times reporting this. The Republicans are pulling money away from some significant candidates falling behind in these competitive House races here and concentrating their efforts when it comes to other races. So how would you read that as far as a level of worry?
That's pretty much ceding defeat when we're pulling away from Mike Kaufman and Bishop in Michigan. I think that's recognizing what's going on. But you have to be strategic at this point. The wind, the enthusiasm, it's at Democrats' backs. Well, there was a light Kavanaugh effect, which is helping Republican candidates in the Senate. It's not helping in the House whatsoever. However, the flip side is it's helping Democrats in the House because it's ramping up enthusiasm primarily among female voters and younger voters who are looking forward to the midterms because you're seeing a wave of anti-Republican sentiment throughout the country. Yeah,
we've been hearing about that enthusiasm wave. Emily, I want to ask you about that, especially when it comes to more on what Evan was talking about, the direct correlation between the cash here and the enthusiasm from voters.
Look, the cash is actually an effect of the enthusiasm. It's voters, it's supporters, it's people that are actually not considering themselves Democrats, but are just so fired up by the fact that Republicans, what Republicans are doing with control of the presidency in both houses. They are not only being ineffective, they're actually harming Americans. And this has energized so many people to become new volunteers and new donors. I think what we're seeing, it's actually not unusual at this point in the cycle for either party to start really cutting their losses, pulling money out of places they think they're going to lose. But what is unusual is the fact that Democrats have run competitive races in seats they weren't even running candidates in before. These are serious candidates. In many cases, they're going to win. So it actually made Republicans have to spread out a little more, and then their base just was not there to support. Look, just at Swing Left, we're seeing $100,000 coming in every day, the majority of this going directly into candidates. There are 17 swing district races where just Swing Left has raised more money than the party did in the last cycle. So the enthusiasm is there on the money side as well as the voter side.
So you see an equal sign there when it comes to the cash and the enthusiasm. Evan, we were talking about this earlier when it comes to Texas and that race, and the $38 million that he's pulling, Beto O'Rourke is pulling just in the third quarter alone. But yet you have some local polling there that still show Cruz, holding his own, still commanding a lead there. So is the money enough going to do it for O'Rourke?
No, $38 million, setting the record for all time of any Senate candidate in American history. We have to applaud Beto O'Rourke for that. But at the same time, you actually have to look at what Beto O'Rourke has done to get that. We don't know what his cash on hand is. We don't know how much he spent to get that money because you have to spend money to raise money. And at the same time, Beto O'Rourke, his campaign has not done two things that they really needed to do. They've not really built up an outreach to the Latino community, who are key voters that would help him beat Ted Cruz. And at the same time, all the TV ad buys have been made between now and the election, and Beto's people really can't use this money. So they have this new cash influx, and whatever's left over of it, what are they going to use it on? I don't know. So that's a hindrance to the campaign. Overall, on enthusiasm as well, money gauges, but so do new voter registrations. And new voter registrations throughout the country are surging. There are a couple of places where it's not happening, but that would be, say, in Amy McGrath's district. She's taking on Andy Barr in the Kentucky 6th. Amy McGrath, I'm much more bearish on her than other Democrats are or other Republicans are, because you've seen the voter registrations actually play to where it stayed about the same in that district. But where you look in Colorado, say Mike Kaufman's district in the Colorado 6th, you're seeing him losing Republican registered voters, and that's bad for him. And we're seeing it play out in Iowa, where all three Republicans, including Steve King, are vulnerable.
Time and time again, when I'm talking to you, Evan, you've always brought up the Kavanaugh effect, even in the weekend, right when he was sworn in. But Emily, when it comes to that, when it comes to this Kavanaugh wave, yes, we were saying that can be, we can see that wave and those riding on it. But especially when it comes to the midterms, so much can happen in any given amount of time, especially in a Trump world as well. Do you expect for that wave to impact these races more than money has, or do you see that dying down, that something else will come in its place?
I think it impacts on all sides. I think it impacts the money. It certainly is impacting the volunteers. Look, you're right. In a Trump news cycle, we're like already about 45 news cycles away from Kavanaugh and probably 200 news cycles more. But it does seem to be a lasting impact because it was so visceral for so many people. And again, this is not just Democrats. These are people all over the board. And we talk about where the swing districts are, where the competitive races are. A lot of these have very large populations of educated, independent women in them who that is not a party issue. When they saw Dr. Blasey Ford, that is a visceral issue. And when they saw the hubris and the entitlement of the Republican men in the Senate and of Kavanaugh himself, that really hits people to the core, and that does activate them. So yes, I actually do think there was a little bit of a wave on the Republican side to say, look, it was the white piece that took us to Trump. Now it'll be the male piece that takes us to Republicans and Kavanaugh. But I just think it is so visceral for so many women and independent women that it will be much, much larger. We see that in our data at Swing Left.
Well, all right. Emily Tisch Sussman, Evan Siegfried, as always, great to have you both with me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Still ahead, American politics according to Yeezy. We will break down some of the alternative facts the rapper shared about African Americans during his visit to the White House this week. I wish you could have seen Evan's reaction when I just read that.
It was something about when I put this hat on, it made me feel like Superman. You made a Superman. I love this guy right here. Let me give this guy a hug.